All right, greetings everybody, and welcome to week number 8. That is right, week number 8 of your 7315 class, which is your management class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. J.S.K. Austin, and today we will do, I honestly will keep this one under 20 minutes. I know I'm late in the game getting this check-in video up, and we will not have a check-in video next week because we have a live session next week, and then after next week, I will be talking more about some facility issues, actually. I will probably actually talk about facility issues for 2 or 3 weeks in the check-in videos, so be prepared for that. But that's a very important, by the way, facilities is a very important aspect of libraries that just does not get due attention again in these management courses. But first, let me check in a few course updates, a few updates with me, and that sort of thing. And then from there, we will talk a little bit about an issue that developed actually at the end of last year in the Seattle Public Library system, which has had some issues recently. We'll talk a little bit about that. There's also something, if you take my intellectual freedom course this fall, I'll be bringing up Seattle Public Library again because they were the site of a intellectual freedom issue as well. Poor people. They are, I hate all the negative attention they're getting, but yeah, we're going to talk about something that happened at the end of last week. We're going to talk about something that happened at the end of last year, this week. There. Sorry about that. I'm tired. That is one thing that I want to first apologize for the lateness of this check-in video. I'll just keep it real and say that there's just been a lot going on. I don't know how else to say it. I have the main thing that's been going on is both my daughter and my wife have been sick at different points this week. They are both doing better now, but that's been a problem. I had a cell phone die on me, that's in the shop. So lack of cell phone has also caused issues. Inclement weather in the Kansas City area has caused issues. And then also, quite frankly, I have also, there's been some advising needs that I've had to tend to. And then there's been, just quite frankly, a issue that I may talk about a little later on in this, semester as well, as far as my, devoting myself and my time to the ALA presidential candidacy of one of the candidates this year. That has not been a fun process overall. It's actually been very stressful, very divisive. I've lost friends. I've lost respect for a lot of people. And so that's probably something that I'm actually going to talk about probably again a little later. If I talk about it right now, I'm just going to be too emotional and abrasive given what's gone down this week. But I'll find some time probably to talk about that in the future. But having said that, one thing that I will say just from even though this may not sound like it ties to management, it actually does, because one thing that ties to management is well-being and wellness and mindfulness and those sorts of things. So, I would just say, right now, what I'm going to say, and then I won't elaborate any further on that, but right now what I'm going to say is, just kind of always try to make sure that there's balance between your library life and then your not library life. There are going to be some of you who may end up being what they call rock star librarians, and those are librarians who end up being really popular in the field. It's a small field where a lot of people know each other, and we have a lot of conferences. So even if you're far away from people, you end up mingling with them and knowing them and everything. And there are pros and cons to being rock star librarians, but I would just recommend not allowing that to happen to you, because that's when you get into that library, that rock star librarian phase, you get asked to do things, you end up having to do things for, people that have done things for you. There's a lot of give and take. There's a lot of politics. And when you're dealing with librarians, I'm just going to keep it honest. You're going to be at times dealing with people who just aren't all that stable. So having said that, try to maintain your hobbies. If you like to cook, if you like to knit, if you like to do outdoorsy stuff, hiking. I practice martial arts. You've probably seen in some of my videos before that there are a lot of ads for martial arts stuff in my videos when I'm exploring the net. And that's because I do so much martial arts purchasing that I get tracked on that. And actually I see that I've got one of my Krav Maga shirts on right now. So yeah. just make sure. I would suggest, if possible, even physical activity to be your outside from your library world, because actually, when you keep your body right, that does help keep your mind right. And as we age, I know it's not as fun as we age. As we age, and I'm about to turn 39 next month, so I'm not a spring chicken. But as we age, we do. It's not as fun to work out anymore. It is. When I get hit in a martial arts class, I feel it. You know what I'm saying? I probably wouldn't have felt it the same way in my 20s or my teens, but I actually had to take a little layoff because I dislocated some cartilage in my rib cage after I got slammed back in November. So these things happen, and you just have to do what you have to do. But I would recommend, even if it's just yoga or hiking is a physical activity, these things that get your body right also get your mind right. So just kind of be thinking about that. Um, I do want to say again, we have Danny Cook. She will be speaking to us next Tuesday, starting at 7 p.m. Central Time. I'll put a reminder up in the course this weekend. A first reminder probably Saturday, a second reminder Monday, and then a final reminder on Tuesday about that. You're gonna enjoy Danny. And one thing that I will also say is that be adults. One of the great things about Danny is that she's an adult. Actually, when it comes to, again, this ALA election that I was just talking about, I have endorsed ALA candidate Kelvin Watson, and I'm working with his campaign. Danny has endorsed ALA candidate Emily Drabinski, and she is working with her campaign. I am not able to talk right now to some of the people that are working Emily's campaign, but Danny is very mature, more mature probably even than I am, I would say, even though I believe she is maybe 10 years younger than me. But yeah, Danny has been very mature. She has not allowed this polarizing campaign to get in the way of her working with us and sharing her knowledge with this class. And for that, I am very appreciative to her about. And, I would say that to say, just remain an adult, as you go through this profession as well, because there are going to be times when people test you and you're not going to want to behave as an adult, but, try your best to continue to do it anyway. Yeah, people are going to test you. This is a strange field with strange people in it. And I don't mean to try to scare you away from the field, but one thing I'm just going to do is keep it honest. I'm not going to blow smoke up your behind. I'm going to, tell you like it is, but also I tell you like it is as a warning. And then also I try to give you some coping strategies, and I try to encourage you to look for your own coping strategies at all time. And that's the only way that you're going to end up being able to enjoy this field for the entire time you're in it, which some of you are in your 20s and may be in it for 40 years. And I got my first professional librarian job at 25. So I'm going to be one of these people. I'm 15 years in the game now, and I will probably be 40 to 45 years in the game before I retire. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get to some course update. First things first, one thing that I want to direct your attention to is that one of your readings next week is going to be the Vocational All reading by Fabazi Etarth. And I absolutely love this reading, as do a lot of people. It is a great reading. When you're going to hear a lot of librarians talk about vocational awe, and she's the one who came up with that concept. She wrote this beautifully, masterfully, and it's just phenomenal. So I do hope that y'all really do. I hope that you're doing your readings anyway, and it looks from the discussion boards that you are. But I would just say, if you've been slacking off on the readings, please still read Fabazi's piece here carefully, read it critically, enjoy it, embrace it. She is bringing some real knowledge there, and understanding what she's talking about is going to go a long way for you in librarianship. Next thing I want to talk about is just I do over the weekend hope to be able to get some things in order for you all to really start working on the grant stuff that you have to do. Just to remind you, your final assignment is a grant, a teamwork grant sort of project, grant narrative that's going to be due on May the 9th. You do have spaces where you are able to dialogue with your group members in these spaces here, and So please get on the ball as far as introducing yourself to your teammates and everything, and just making sure that you all know each other and are familiar with each other. And then hopefully, and my daughter's actually coughing now, as long as the family stays healthy and everything, hopefully I can dedicate my weekend to getting, that stuff in order. So some of that stuff in order so that you all can go ahead and get started thinking about that. As far as other assignments, your next quote unquote big assignment is going to be your position description, which is due on March 20th. So about a week and a half from now, actually. But I would say, even though this is a quote unquote big assignment, it is really not that hard. The position description, and by the way, I do want to clarify also that the position description, and I sent an announcement about this earlier in the semester as well, that will not require APA citation. Okay, so I do want to make that clear. The position description assignment will not require APA citation. You don't have to have a references page. You don't have to cite outside sources, and I'm not going to be looking at APA when I grade that. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's the next major assignment you all have. You can actually probably do that in a day, so I wouldn't stress out about it. In the meantime, I will be trying to get your service assessments graded, but I will say, and sorry if it sounds like excuses, this is my first time though teaching 3 classes in one semester, and the difference between 2 and 3 classes is rather big. I'm starting to see that now too. Hopefully, thankfully, I'll only have to teach 3 classes once every year. I'm on a 2-3-1 schedule now, so that's a relief. But yeah, I do have grading that I have to do in the other 2 classes, and once I get that grading done, then I can come back and really tackle the grading for the assessment assignments and get that done. But I don't expect a long turnaround for the grading of the position descriptions, because just honestly, those aren't going to take y'all a long time to do, and frankly, they're not going to take me a long time to grade either. So that's at least a benefit that I've got going for me. So there you have it there. I am getting caught up on grading your discussions and case studies, but I will say you all have been doing phenomenal on that. So just keep up the good work. I can't name anyone in the class that needs to actually improve on that. You all have been just doing just fine there. So keep up the good work there. Very pleased with what you've done there. And now the next thing, we're going to talk a little bit about something that is actually a bit of a facilities issue with Seattle Public Library. So give me one moment. Okay, so, hold on. Okay, so I'm actually going to share this one tweet thread with you all. There's actually been several tweet threads related to this. In December and January, there were several. This was and you may have seen it on Twitter. There was just this big thing between this Seattle-based homeless advocate journalist and these librarians. So I'm going to read one of these tweet threads, and if you are interested in learning more or seeing more, then you can kind of just go on Twitter yourself and try to find those things. But so this is a homeless advocate and journalist in Seattle, Washington, Erica C. Barnett. And Erica was saying, as an advocate for homeless people, and particularly for homeless people not dying in sub-freezing conditions, I suggested some Seattle Library branches, all of which are designated as official city warming centers, should open. I said clearly and unequivocally that in an ideal world, libraries would not have to serve as homeless day centers, and that library workers did not train as social services workers. Yet in this non-ideal world we live in, people do have to be inside and not die in sub-freezing weather. Opening their doors is one thing in the library system. The library system agreed to do as part of emergency planning for winter weather. All city departments, including the library, are short-staffed, and the number of people who can get to work in person is limited by bus and car access in the snow. Many small branches are on the hills and can't open in icy conditions as well. Okay, we are going to go over 20 minutes. I do this all the time, but we'll be under 30. As an incentive to the people who can do in-person work, the city offered an executive branch workers bonus pay of $150 to $250 a shift to do work outside of their areas, such as picking up unsheltered people in vans and staffing homeless shelters. More people have volunteered to do this work than were needed, which is inspiring and great. I think that despite the intense bullying I'm receiving from those who say no library worker can work and no library can possibly open, some library staffers would volunteer. any case, this is again an official role. The libraries play in the city of Seattle, and it's too cold for people to be outside. They are allowed to come inside the libraries, even if they don't have an official library reason for being there. Some branches have been open when the streets have been cleared by the way. So this is mostly a claim that KC Metro bus service is inadequate, in addition to the Omicron issue that is impacting every city department. Okay, this thread is longer than I thought. Let me see. I will always stand up for the rights of homeless people. I'll skip from that. It is horrible that we live in a world where adequate housing is not available. Okay. Nonetheless, people screaming that I hate librarians or don't. Okay, this is where I wanted to get to. Nonetheless, the people screaming that I hate librarians or don't understand how libraries work are missing the point. Perhaps intentionally, it is Twitter after all. In an emergency, one where people can literally die of exposure, is imperative on systems to be flexible, as many city departments have already done. It is a good idea, given that libraries are officially designated warming centers, to open as many as possibly and feasibly to be open in accordance with prior agreement to do so, and using volunteers first. I have enough faith in city and library workers, including those who don't participate in Twitter mobs, to believe that given the opportunity, many would volunteer to help the most vulnerable today, as they volunteered to staff restrooms earlier in the pandemic. And now I am locking my account because honestly, advocating for libraries to do the thing they said they would do, to the extent that they are able to do that thing, has subjected me to a level of bullying that is not acceptable. I think that's enough from there. Okay, so a lot's going on here. We've got a library behavioral issue. We have a what should we expect from librarians and library workers and job creep issue. And then we do have a facilities issue. Let's actually, and I'm going to tackle this hopefully within, before this hits the 25-minute mark. Again, we don't have a check-in video next week, and you get to hear from somebody else, Danny Cook, so that will be a benefit to you all. All right, but yeah, let's dive right in. Let's first talk about the facilities issue, and let me actually minimize myself here again. So libraries are in Seattle. The Seattle Public Libraries, they are shelters for extreme weather. So when you have weather that is too hot or too cold, especially during the day, these libraries serve as places for air conditioning and for warming. And so if I'm understanding what was going on, and this thread was, this beef between this lady who is a journalist and these librarians, it was just this huge thing, and these librarians from all over the country were attacking her. I'm not kidding. And this is actually very common librarian behavior, is to attack these people or to engage in Twitter mobs. Librarians do it all the time. I have some opinions on that. In fact, I'll share those opinions. I think the reason that librarians participate on Twitter mobs, and some have admitted this, is that they are not the types of people who are generally going to confront somebody in person. So they take a lot and they aren't willing to dish it back in person. So then they have all these dark impulses and all this rage that they don't let out, and they let it out on Twitter to anyone. People brag about their library Twitter gangster activity, which I say that is the most fake like, we decided back in 2008 that Facebook and MySpace gangsters are whack, and now we decided that for people who are teenagers and in their 20s, and now I'm seeing like middle-aged librarians bragging on Twitter about dragging people on Twitter. And I'm just like, y'all are so whack. What the hell? So anyway, I say all that to say, first of all, if you can avoid the Twitter drags, and sometimes you do have to call people out in this field in Twitter, and I did it just this week, but at the same time, when somebody is getting just pounded on by a bunch of librarians who are doing it for fun and for sport, it's just ridiculous. Be better, be mature. But having said that, here's some things related, first of all, to facilities. With facilities, it needs to be known, like if the libraries become designated warming centers or air conditioned places in extreme weather, just know that these are, for one thing, these are going to be things that if you are a manager, you may have to end up caving to a lot of pressure from elected officials, because the elected officials wind up they wound up being the ones who, they don't understand librarianship. So a lot of times, and as you can see with these intellectual freedom issues, especially in Texas and some other places right now, related to school libraries, the elected officials, the people on school boards, the people on city and county councils, a lot of times just don't understand librarianship, didn't go to library school, and don't know what libraries are in place to do. So there is going to be, and I said I was going to talk about job creep too. So these things are kind of interconnected here. So when it comes to job creep, and duties being added to the librarian or to the library worker, know that that is inevitably going to happen, and you as a manager are going to have to find a way in order to kind of explain to your staff, why this is happening, and try to make it as bearable as possible for them, while also trying to defend your library workers as much as possible, even though you can't really wave a magic wand and really defend them the way you want to. But do what you can. Push back against things that are unfair, but know that some job creep is going to happen, because again, these people, a lot of times, they just don't think librarians do anything, or that librarianship is a cake job and that sort of thing. And so they will add on responsibility after responsibility after responsibility. The reason why this particular journalist, or one of the reasons why library workers were so upset with her, was because of the job creep issue. So they were saying, hey, we are not trained to be people that watch for and provide social services to homeless people. We're now being, asked to do things like, for instance, consider volunteering to pick these people up with county vehicles, or I guess city vehicles in Seattle, or they're being asked to, provide social services or babysitting or whatever to them as they are in the library. Plus, we are being asked to work outside our normal hours and things like that. And there was incentive, including pay increases for that. But, still, apparently there was some voluntoting as opposed to just volunteering. And there was, people feeling like they couldn't say no and that sort of thing. And so that's where all the job creep and the bad feelings and everything come from. I would say that one thing that you want to do is just make sure that you try to stay as true as you can to the library mission statement. Know that, especially public libraries these days, the truth of the matter just is that public libraries aren't just places where you warehouse books and provide information. There is going to be, right now, there is one of the big actual pieces of this upcoming ALA election is, again, the job creep issue, particularly on public libraries. So public libraries just be places that, dole out information, and that's all they're responsible for and expected to do. And they shouldn't have to do other things like provide tax forms, or provide COVID tests and that sort of thing. But there's a lot going on, again, in that situation as well. And I'll use my wife as an example, my wife being a public school teacher. My wife says, and she's absolutely right, and cops will tell you this too, not that I'm trying to be pro-cop. I'm actually not necessarily a big fan of law enforcement officers, even though I do feel we need them to a degree. But I will say that when you talk about job creep, is happening to everyone in the public sector. Yes, it is happening to cops. They are being asked to do mental health services and things like that they're not necessarily trained for, and sometimes that meets with devastating and fatal results. And my wife, who's a teacher, she's saying, yes, she is doing things. The teachers are doing things beyond the teaching. This job creep situation is happening all throughout public services, and librarians want to feel like it's just happening to them, and it's just honestly not. I'm not saying with that it's right or wrong, but I am saying that it's not just happening to us. And so there just needs to be all across the board. If you don't want job creep, you have to find a way to get all across the board increases in people who work in public services, and that's going to make taxes go up and a whole bunch of things like that. And so realistically, I'm not sure that that's going to happen. So job creep is going to be a thing. But what I'm going to say, and I've had public librarians, by the way, agree with me on this, including public library managers and everything. So even though this may sound like something that some of you all who are going into public libraries are thinking, oh, heck no. But I've I've had people agree with what I'm about to state as an opinion, and I've had people disagree with it. But I've actually had more people agree with it. When it comes to more responsibilities falling on librarians, or on libraries, I think that first of all, you can do innovative things like have resource officers and social workers in libraries, and that happens in some places. In public libraries. But then also, yes, I do think that just for keeping in line with the mission statement of a lot of these libraries, yes, we do have to probably continue to do things like not administer COVID tests, but to provide them, not just provide information, but to provide COVID tests. Maybe every now and then to provide some of the things that social services provides. Maybe we provide them in the library branches. And I would say that libraries have never really been. A lot of times, public libraries have loaned out things other than books and information, and that's been going on for a while. There have been public libraries that for years and decades have loaned out like seeds and stuff to farmers and had seed programs. There are libraries that loan out like bicycle locks and tools and that sort of thing. By the way, if your public library doesn't loan out tools and power sets, if they can afford to do so, that's actually a pretty nice thing to loan out to people. So that people aren't having to necessarily buy a tool set to do a one-time thing that they don't even really know how to do. You know what I'm saying? So libraries have long experimented with loaning out things other than just books and information, and electronics that provide information. So, it's a false claim especially with the COVID test. It's a false claim when people say, oh, well, this is new job creep stuff. No, we're in a pandemic, and so we are offering stuff that people need in a pandemic time. And my wife said that the schools are also distributing COVID tests and that sort of thing. So we are not just talking about something that is uniquely happening to libraries here. And so, yes, I think that if you're somebody who thinks that the public library in particular is just ever going to just be a information only place ever again, you probably need to get out of this profession, because if that's what you want, you're probably not going to get it. Okay. I'll put that out there. And then, another thing that I'll just say is when it comes to facilities, yes, hopefully I would say that if you are somebody who's like the administrator or head of a library, then of a public library, and the local government wants to use that public library as some sort of, warming station for the homeless, even after hours, and doing some things like that, what you probably want to do is say, you're going to be at the will of your library boards and elected officials anyway. But what I would say to maybe do is try to say, okay, but protect my workers. Don't make my workers the people who have to do this outside of their normal hours and outside of their family time. Find volunteers, find the money for temporary workers, but don't put this on my city employees. Don't make that my library employees. Don't make that their job creep. Give them a chance to volunteer if they want to, and then if they want to, you can pay them extra, which is what you saw in that tweet thread. Give them some bonuses, give them some perks. Make sure that there's adequate security, because when I was at the public library in Winston-Salem, and this can be Googled, yes, a young girl unfortunately got raped in the library by another patron. So those bad things happen, and security is, I believe, when appropriate, a good thing. But more so if they're protecting humans and not protecting materials, but that's another thing for another day. So yeah, all of these things, folks. Make sure that you're treating your workers fair, but also make sure that you're treating your communities as though they matter. The two things, we have to figure out a way to let them coincide. And so that's the base message of what turned out to be 30 minutes, even though I said it was going to be quick. I'm sorry, but I'm going to end it right now. I am Dr. Jace Peace and Grace, and I'm out.